Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I thought let's talk about upcoming 2024 middle grade releases. So I want to focus this video just on middle grade because I'm always looking at middle grade releases, not just because of Build Your Library, but also because of being a Sybil's judge. I am hoping to get back into judging at the end of this year. So I'm kind of trying to keep my eye out for things that I'm going to want to read or read ahead and, be prepared. So I thought you guys might want to be aware as well of the releases this year. There's a ton of really great middle grade coming out. I'm very excited about so many things. So I've divided this up by month and we're going to go January through May. So for January, I'm only going to talk about 3 things because they're already out, so I can talk about them. First, I'm going to talk about The Songbird and the Rambutan Tree. This is by Lucille Abidenon, and this is a World War II era story about a girl who is living in, at that time, what is Batavia, but which will eventually become Jakarta in Indonesia. And at the time it was the Dutch East Indies, and she is a white European girl living there with her father. They're very well off. Her mother has recently died, and so she's mourning her mother, and she doesn't sing anymore because that was something she did with her mom. And her father wants to send her away to England to a musical school. And she's trying to fight him on that. She doesn't want to leave. This is the only home she's ever known. But they are aware that, Japan might invade any day now. And so the story is about her time in the concentration camp when Japan did invade. This was written by the granddaughter of the woman in the story, Emmeline. So Emmy is such a strong character. This was just so good. I've already reviewed this online. You can go look it up on History Book by Book if you want a full review, but this was amazing. I'm already planning, this is gonna be my nomination probably for the Sybil's, because you only get one, and that's so hard. You can only choose one book to nominate. And right now, if I had to pick a book, this is the one. But of course, there's so many books I haven't read yet, but this was friggin' amazing, and I loved it, and I read the arc and immediately purchased a copy because I have to have this in my home library, so highly recommend checking it out. Then we have A Meal and the After. This is by Vera Hiranandani. If you've read The Night Diary. If you read The Night Diary by her, this is a companion book to that. I haven't read this one yet, but I'm very excited to because I really loved The Night Diary. I thought it was excellent. And I cannot wait to read about this. This one is set in 1948, and we're following Emil and his family as they're starting over in Bombay and are once again trying to rebuild their lives in an independent India. So we're following Emil in this story and his family. He's both Muslim and Hindu, so you're getting to see what that looks like from this perspective. And I'm really excited to read this. So if you enjoyed The Night Diary, I think that you'll want to check this out. Then the other book that came out in January that I have already read as well is The Girl Who Sang. This is a Holocaust era memoir. It's a graphic novel. It's by Estelle Nadel and Sammy Savos. And it was so good. This is a Holocaust memoir. It's a middle grade memoir, which you guys know I love. This one is about a girl named Enya. She eventually changes her name to Estelle, and her experiences living and growing up in Poland as a Jew in Holocaust World War II era. So it's gonna be sad. I will prepare you ahead of time. This book is devastating, but it's also beautiful. I loved the relationships between the brothers and the sister. That bond was beautiful to see, but also just really sad at how things just never seemed to work out the way Estelle expects them to. And the book is sad, like I said. I wouldn't recommend this for younger than 10, and if it's as young as 10, I would recommend reading with your child because there is some really sad stuff happening in this book. A lot of her family dies. It's tragic. and sometimes they don't even know what happened. So I don't know. I think something like this should be read together, but it's really well done. I think this is one of the better Holocaust era books. Like, I always recommend, if you're going to introduce your child to the Holocaust, you want to start with survivor testimonies, because I think those are the best way to go about teaching it rather than fiction. Like, I love fiction too, don't get me wrong. I recommend lots of that as well, but I think for like an introduction to the time period, a survivor story, something like a middle grade memoir and things like that are the best starting places. Okay, moving on, because this is going to take forever if I keep talking this much about each book. Moving on to February. On February 6th, we have Heroes, a novel of Pearl Harbor by Alan Gratz. I have just started reading the arc of this one, and it's already really good. Alan Gratz is great at writing, like, action. His stories are just, like, constant, like, everything's happening all at once, and you're just kind of there for the ride. This is definitely that. This is set at Pearl Harbor when the Japanese attack, so you're, like, right in the thick of it as the bombs are falling. So it's also a story about a boy who is terrified of, like, getting hurt to the point where he just, like, freezes whenever anything happens. So, of course, you know, we assume he's gonna learn a lesson about, like, bravery throughout the story. He's also obsessed with superheroes. Him and his best friend are, like, trying to make up their own comic book superhero. And, like, I think he's gonna learn a lot about bravery and what it means to be a hero through the course of this story. Then also coming out on the 6th is Across So Many Seas by Ruth Behar. And I've already talked about this one in another video, but I'll just like touch on it again because it's one I'm kind of excited about. This is a story that is set over like several time periods. So if you're doing the Build Your Library Reading Challenge, this is a good one because it's set in like over 500 years. So you've got a 1492 storyline, you've got a 1923 storyline, a 1961 storyline, and a 2003 storyline in a middle grade. Like, I'm excited. So this says it's spanning over 500 years. Ruth Behar's epic novel tells the stories of 4 girls from different generations of a Jewish family, many of them forced to leave their country and start a new life. So the 1492 storyline is going to be during the Spanish Inquisition. And then over 4 centuries later, you're going to follow the relative of that family who had fled to Istanbul and their experiences during the Turkish War of Independence and then having to flee the country again. And then in 1961, they fled to Cuba, so they're experiencing the being ruled by Fidel Castro and all of that. And then they go to Miami. And then in 2003, we're following Paloma, who is learning about all the journeys that got her to this place. I just think this sounds like it's gonna be, I love generational sagas. I love stories that are set over vast time periods, and I think this one's gonna be great. Then also out on the 6th is Drawing Dena. This is by Henna Khan, and this one just sounds like it's going to be a really sweet book. This says it is a tender-hearted middle grade novel about a young Pakistani-American artist determined to manage her anxiety and forge her own creative path. So Dena has anxiety and she's learning how to learning how to understand herself, but also like using art to kind of overcome her anxiety. And I love stories about art and artists. I also have a lot of anxiety, so like I feel like I like to read stories about like learning to overcome that. So I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, then out on the 13th of February is Avil Offline. This is by Amy Noel Parks. This one caught my eye because it's sort of like a story of helicopter parents and like the ways parents can keep track of their children now. Like I grew up in the time of like you left in the morning and your parents didn't see you again until you were hungry. Like you wandered in, grabbed some lunch and left again. And like they didn't know where you were. They had no way of tracking you. So like reading about like the way we have access to so much technology now that we can like basically spy on our children and see where they are at all times. And so that's what the story's about. 12-year-old Avril is really into coding and technology and stuff, and she can't do anything without her parents being fully aware of every step she takes. So they use something called the Ruby Slippers surveillance app to watch over her. And so when she finds out that that app is going to become even more invasive, she wants to do something about it. So I think this story just sounds interesting. It almost sounds like a Black Mirror episode, but like obviously this is set now, not in the future, and it is something that happens all the time. Like we do have the ability to keep tabs on our children like parents never had before. So I feel like this could be an interesting story to read. Now we have 2 books out on the 27th of February. The first one I want to talk about is Max in the House of Spies. This one is by Adam Gidwitz. And this one caught my eye because this is a story about espionage and secrets and suspense and all of that kind of stuff. And it's set during World War II era. So this says, leaving home is hard and Max is alone for the first time in his life. But not for long. He's surprised to discover that he's been joined by 2 unexpected traveling companions, one on each shoulder, a kobold and a dybbuk named Berg and Stein. So he's living in Germany. It's becoming more dangerous for Jewish families, but Max is determined to find a way back home and back to his parents. He has a plan to return to Berlin. It merely involves accomplishing the impossible, becoming a British spy. So this is the first book in a duology. It's a World War II story. It's got some like mythology happening. I think this could be really fun. I'm looking forward to reading it. I don't know. I've not seen a story quite like this before, so I'm excited to check it out. And then also on the 27th, we have the Partition Project. This is by Sadia Faruqi. This is another one I've already talked about before, but I wanted to touch on it again in this video since we're focusing on middle grade. This one is a story about a contemporary Pakistani American girl who wants to be a journalist. She's passionate about writing, and she starts talking to her grandmother about her experiences during the partitioning of India and Pakistan. And so if you've read The Night Diary and you read A Meal and the After, I think this might be a nice companion to like kind of tie all of that together. Because this one is going to be about a modern day girl, like learning about her family's history and what that partitioning experience was like for her grandmother. It just sounds like it's going to be a really good book, so I'm excited for that one. Now let's move on to March. We have several books coming out on March 3rd. So the first one I want to talk about is The First State of Being by Erin Entrada Kelly. This one caught my eye because this is a time traveling story. It says, when 12-year-old Michael Rosario meets a mysterious boy from the future, his life is changed forever. It's set in August of 1999, and 12-year-old Michael Rosario lives in the Foxfront Apartments in Red Knot, Delaware. Everyone's gearing up for the Y2K experience, and he meets this strange kid who maybe is from the future. And so, like, it's time travel, but it sounds like it's going to be time travel in the same way that When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead, where it's kind of like it's happening, but it's not like an obvious, like, traveling through the future kind of a situation, or, you know? So it's like a gentle time travel story. I don't know, but I'm intrigued. Then also on the 5th, we have One Big Open Sky by Lisa Klein Ransom. She wrote one of my favorite books last year, so I'm excited for this one. This is another historical fiction, and we're following 3 women as they're narrating a perilous wagon journey westward that could set them free or cost them everything they have in this intergenerational verse novel that explores the history of the Black homesteader movement. So it's set in 1879 in Mississippi, and we meet our characters who are then going to be traveling across the country in a covered wagon. I don't know that I've read a story about Black homesteaders for this age group, so, or really for very many yet. Like, I'm trying to think, how many stories have I read about Black homesteaders, and I cannot think of that many, so I'm excited to read this. I'm expecting this to be amazing. This is a novel in verse, which doesn't always 100% work for me, but I have a good feeling about this one. I think it might work for me. I'm hoping it works for me because I have the access to the ARC and I've already pre-ordered it too. So like you can tell I'm excited. Then we have something completely different. So also out on the 5th is Free Period. This is by Ali Therese, and this is just like, I don't know that I've seen a book like this before. It says it's billed as a middle grade moxie centering period equity. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, for the next generation. So this is 2 girls who are just pranking their way through middle school, and they keep getting in trouble, so they join the school's community action club with the plan to do as little as possible. But then they both, I guess one of them gets her period early and gets embarrassed by it, and they don't have access to menstrual products in the girls' bathroom, so they're going to start a whole big thing to try to make sure that everyone has access to what they need. So it says the girls take over the club's campaign for maxi pads in bathrooms for all students who menstruate. In the name of period equity, the 2 friends use everything from over-the-top baked goods to glitter gluing for change. But nothing can prepare them for a clueless school board, an annoying little sister, and crushes. So, like, this sounds like it could be excellent. Like, I loved Moxie. I loved Are You There, Goddess Be Margaret? So, like, I feel like this could be great. Like, I'm excited to give this one to my daughter. I just think it's going to be a really good book. So next up on the 12th of March, we have The Circuit by Francisco Jimenez, and this is a middle grade graphic novel adaptation. So it says, poignantly told from a young boy's perspective, the popular award-winning memoir centered on a Mexican family working California's fields is now a powerful graphic novel that will appeal to readers of Illegal and They Called Us Enemy. So I'm always excited. I love middle grade memoirs. I love middle grade graphic novel memoirs. Like, that whole thing always works for me. I just love that. And so I'm excited to see what they do with this one. Then on March 24th, we have Ferris, a new Kate DiCamillo. I adore Kate DiCamillo's writing. I'm really I have the physical ARC of this. Like, I'm so excited. Thank you so much to Candlewick Press for sending me this. This is going to be, it says, a hilarious and achingly real love story about a girl, a ghost, a grandmother, and growing up. So we're following Ferris, who is about to start the 5th grade, and it's a summer of sheer pandemonium. Well, I love her writing. I love how she does family dynamics and just very fascinating characters. All of the characters she writes are just so vivid. Really looking forward to that. Okay, and then the last March book I want to talk about comes out on the 26th, and that is Olivetti by Ali Millington. And this caught my eye because it's about a sentient typewriter. I love weird books. Weird books are kind of my thing, but also I love weird middle grade books. And what's weirder than a sentient typewriter? So this is a heartfelt debut middle grade told from the unique vantage point of a witty typewriter and an introverted boy. And it says it's for fans of Wish Tree and A Rover Story. I loved both of those books. So you've already sold me. I'm in. I have the ARC of this. I cannot wait to read it. So it says being a typewriter is not as easy as it looks, surrounded by books, notorious attention hogs, and recently replaced by a computer. Olivetti has been forgotten by the Brindle family, the family he's lived with for years. The Brindles are busy humans, apart from the 12-year-old Ernest, who would rather be left alone with his collection of Oxford English dictionaries. The least they could do was remember Olivetti once in a while. Since he remembers every word they've typed on him, it is a thankless job keeping those memories alive. That's all I'm going to read you, but that is enough. I'm hooked already, so I cannot wait to read this. I think it's going to be a warm hug kind of a book, I think. Moving on to April, I'm going to try to get through these as quickly as I can. So first up on the 2nd of April, we have Ultraviolet. This is by Aida Salazar. I read another book she wrote a few years ago for, I think it was like The Land of the Cranes or something like that for Sibyl's, and it was beautiful. So I'm very excited to read this one. This says, sometimes life explodes in Technicolor. In the spirit of Judy Blume, Ada Salazar tells it like it is about puberty, hormones, and first love in this hilarious, heartwarming, highly relatable coming-of-age story, perfect for fans of Jason Reynolds, Kwame Alexander, and Adib Khorram. And we're following Elio Solis. He's an 8th grader dealing with all the hormones. And like, I just think this is going to be a beautiful book. We're talking about his relationship with his pops, his first girlfriend, betrayal, revenge. Like, it's hilarious, heartwarming, and highly relatable. Ultraviolet digs deep into themes of consent, puberty, masculinity, and the emotional lives of boys as it challenges stereotypes and offers another way to be in the world. I have really good feelings about this book. Like, her writing is beautiful, and I just think this is going to be, like, top tier excellent. I feel like if it gets nominated, and it must get nominated, like, I hope it gets nominated. I haven't even read it yet, but I'm already like, this is going to be finalist for Sibyl's. I just feel it in my bones. Then on the 2nd as well, we have The Wrong Way Home by Kate O'Shaughnessy. This one is about a girl living on a ranch in an off-grid sustainable community in upstate New York. She's lived there since she was 6. It says the work is hard, but Fern admires the ranch's leader, Dr. Ben. So when Fern's mother sneaks them away in the middle of the night and says Dr. Ben is dangerous, Fern doesn't believe it, and she desperately wants to go back to the life she knows and what feels comfortable to her. So this is a story about toxic cult religions and like breaking away from them and kind of like learning what the real world is like when all you've known is this toxic cult. I love stories about cults. I think this is gonna be really good. I'm very excited to read it. Okay, then on the 9th, one of my most anticipated books of the year comes out, The Night War. This is by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. I love her books so much. Like, all of the books I've read by her have been like top tier, 5-star, just excellent. So when I saw she had a new book coming out, I immediately pre-ordered. This is a story about World War II, and it's set in France, and it's about a Jewish girl who has lost everything but her life, and she must decide whether to risk even that to bring others to freedom. And there's a tagline that says, "We don't choose how we feel, but we choose how we act." Like, I am so excited to read this. I think it's going to be great. It's set in 1942, right after Germany has occupied France, and 12-year-old Miriam, who is Jewish, is not safe. With help and quick thinking, Mary is saved from the roundup that takes her entire Jewish neighborhood, and she's able to escape Paris, landing in a small French village. So she's able to get out of Paris, and she's gonna join the resistance. I love it. I can't wait to read this. Middle grade World War II era stories are one of my favorite things. Kimberly Brubaker Bradley is one of my favorite writers, so I just think this is gonna be great. Also out on April 9th, we have 3 Summers. This is a middle grade memoir, so you know I'm excited for that. This one is a memoir of sisterhood, summer crushes, and growing up on the eve of war by Amra Sabik El Reyes, and this is set in the years leading up to the Bosnian genocide. I have always wanted to read more about this time period. I read Zlata's Diary growing up, and like I've always been curious to read more, but there's just, I don't know, there haven't been that many books that have crossed my path. Until now, like recently I've come across several, so like I need to read all of them. So this one is a middle grade memoir, so I feel like this is the best place for me to start because it's already like within my wheelhouse of things that I generally like to read. So I feel like it'll be a good like starting point. But like this sounds like it's going to be really great. It's a story about sisters and the tensions escalating over the 3 summers in the 1980s in Bosnia. So I'm excited to read that. I feel like it's going to be a really sad story, but also just a really impactful one. And then also out on the 9th is The Secret Language of Birds by Lynn Kelly. You might know her from her other book, A Song for a Whale. So this one is about a girl who discovers a pair of endangered birds about to lay eggs in the marshes of her summer camp, and her secret plan that she hatches to help them. Yeah, so this is Nina's used to feeling like the odd one out, both at school and in her large family, but while trying to fit in at summer camp, she discovers something even more peculiar: two majestic birds that have built a nest in the marsh behind an abandoned infirmary. They appear to be whooping cranes, but that's impossible. Nina is an amateur bird watcher, and all her resources tell her that those rare birds haven't nested in Texas in over 100 years. So she reports the sighting to wildlife officials, which raises more questions, and experts start helping her to track the birds. But they cannot identify the female bird. Who is she and where did she come from? So with the help of some fellow campers, Nina sets out to discover who the mystery bird really is. And as she gets closer to the truth, will she find a flock of her own? So it's about like birding and friendship and being like a weird kid. And this book sounds like it was like tailor-made for me, so I'm excited to read that. Then really quick, I only have a couple more books that are coming out in May. So we have Codename Kingfisher by Liz Kessler, another author that I have absolutely loved her work before this, so I'm looking forward to reading it. She wrote When the World Was Ours, which was one of my absolute favorite books a couple of years ago. So this one is about a girl who learns about her grandmother and great aunt's involvement in the Dutch resistance during World War II. In this heartbreaking middle grade story about family, history, resilience, and hope from acclaimed author Liz Kessler. That's one of my favorite things, is stories about like people now learning about their family history. I love that. I will always enjoy that. And I like, that's a trope that always works for me. So it being about the Dutch resistance during World War II, it being an author that I think is going to do a great job of tackling that topic, I'm excited. Then also out on May 7th is The Secret Library. This is by Kekla Magoon. I'm so excited for this book. This is a like bookish book. So since Grandpa died, Dally's days are dull and restricted. She's 11 and a half years old, and her exacting single mother is already grooming her to take over the family business. Starved for adventure and release, Dally rescues a mysterious envelope from her mother's clutches. An envelope Grandpa had earmarked for her. The map she finds inside leads to a library of secrets, where each book is a portal to a precise moment in time. As Dally checks out adventure after adventure, including an exhilarating outing with pirates, she begins to dive deep into her family's hidden history. Soon she's visiting the library every day to escape the demands of the present, but the library has secrets of its own. Intentions that would shape her life as surely as her mother's meticulous plans. Secret libraries with magical portal books? I'm so in. I can't wait to read this. Again, thank you so much to Candlewick Press for sending me an ARC of this book, because I am excited to read it. And then the last book I want to talk about is A Galaxy of Whales. This is by Heather Fawcett, who has written other books that I've really loved in the past. So like I'm excited for another Heather Fawcett. This one's a contemporary. I think the other Heather Fawcett's that I've read have all been fantasy, but this one is about some kids on a summer whale watching trip, and like a book about whale watching, I'm in. I love whale. Like I've been whale watching exactly once and saw 0 whales, but it's something I've always wanted to do again, because I loved the experience and like the anticipation. Even though we didn't see anything, I thought that was so exciting. But I definitely want to do it again. So like I feel like this would be a great book to read over the summer. So that's what I've earmarked it for. Like I want to read this summer. And it's to do with a girl who's wanting to enter a photo contest. It has a big cash reward, and photography is her passion. She wants to enter the contest, and she just knows she can get an amazing photo of a whale during one of the whale watching tours that her mother runs. But of course her neighbor and nemesis Jasper's also planning on entering the contest. So she's like got this whole dynamic happening with like a competition, 2 kids working against each other, and I have a feeling they're going to start to work together. I can't wait to read this. So I hope that I have shared something here with you to get you excited about reading some middle grade this year, maybe some books that you might want to earmark for your kids. There's so many other books too, like there is so many books coming out. These are just the ones that I personally am planning to read and getting excited about, but like if you want more, let me know and I will make another video with some things that are coming out the second half of the year, because let me tell you, I have some very exciting books that are coming out later in the year too that I didn't want to try to do the whole year in one video, because I'm sure I'm going to hear about more things later. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more things like it, please like and subscribe for more. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.